Serious, parents of Reddit, what is something your child so has done to make you not like them? He tried to steal my car, dog, and VCR at about 3 in the morning. When I caught him about to pull out of the driveway, his excuse was, "I have to run to my place really quick to grab a bite to eat. Would you like anything?" When I asked about Sasha, my dog, and my VCR, he said he was worried someone would steal them while he was gone, so he was bringing them with him to keep them safe. My little girl dumped his butt, and I let him keep the VCR. Stole, and then lied when presented solid evidence of his theft. Yes, I can see my beer in your truck. No, there's no way that you also happen to drink my co-worker's homebrew. Stepdad of a 16-year-old girl here. I tried to like the little schmuck she is dating. I really did. However, after just a couple of months together he got caught in enough lies trying to get into her pants that I didn't like the kid much. The latest shenanigan was threatening to break up with her unless she gave her virginity to him on short notice after calling her a W and S over her Halloween costume. When we had his mother confront him, he admitted it and the smug little crap grounded himself because he felt so badly about it. She has turned her back on her family for him and he is so beyond not worth it. When we had to move 3 hours away for work, she refused to go because of him and is now living with my wife's mother. Thankfully she is about as fond of the boy as I am, so their contact remains minimal. Introduced her to H, which resulted in her becoming a full-blown H addict. She's clean now and they are no longer together, but he still wants her back. Make sure he never gets her again. Breaking up with her a week after taking her virginity, then convincing her to get back together with him months later, convincing her to sleep with him again, and then breaking up with her days after, also trying to pressure her into buying drugs multiple times. My son and his ex-girlfriend had been dating for about 3 years. We needed help with our rent due to my husband's health problems and not being able to work, so they decided to build an apartment in our basements for them and her 2 young children. He had just finished the framing when she showed up, unannounced, with a U-Haul full of her stuff, ready to move in. She quit her job when she moved. We lived 2 states away, so she was looking for a new one. My son would leave in the morning to go to his job, and she wouldn't get out of bed until at least 2 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, I would go downstairs and get her 2 young boys out of bed, get them dressed, feed them breakfast and lunch, do their laundry, bring them outside to play and make them dinner. When she finally got her ass out of bed, all she would do was sit in front of the TV and play around on her phone. My son was working double shifts to make up for her lack of a job, so he would get home around 9 p.m. right as my husband and I would be going to bed. He would help her put the boys to bed, watch a little TV while he ate dinner, which I cooked, and then they would go to bed around 10. I overheard her one night lying about how she filled out so many applications and even how she got a couple of calls back to set up interviews. After a month of this, my husband and I had had enough, and we told my son everything. He couldn't believe it. That weekend he asked her about it and she denied everything. I told him what she had been doing and how she had been acting, and she started screaming and got in my face, calling me a B and a C and threatening to kill me. The kids were crying. She was crying. I was crying and my son was obviously very upset. He ended up calling her mother to come get her and bring her back to live with her, and then rented a U-Haul and drove all of her belongings to her. Turns out she had a drug problem when they started dating and had told my son that she had quit a year prior to her moving in with us, when in fact she was using even more while she was in our house. Obviously they broke up, which didn't bother my son too much when he found out exactly how she had been acting towards us all and how she wouldn't even offer to do the dishes or the laundry, never mind how much she neglected her children. The only thing that bothered my son, and still does to this day, they broke up about 2 years ago and he practically raised her children since their father never saw them, is that she won't let him to talk to her 2 boys. Even a quick call to say happy birthday or Merry Christmas. She even returns the gifts and cards he sends in the mail. I would contact Child Protective Services. She called me a psychopathic W1FB, of which I am neither. If my GF said that about my mother, I'd drop her like a bad habit. My sons, no problems with the girls they dated. Daughter has attracted some real weirdos. We always kept quiet about not liking them. Trusted that she would see them for what they were eventually, and we have been lucky. The one before the current one, which we really like, was really a lost boy. He wasn't a take charge person and was totally helpless. Almost set our house on fire, and when our daughter was seriously ill, he didn't get that she needed to rest and be left alone. She finally convinced him it was over when she moved across the country for school. Lots of things, but what really sent him over the edge was stranding her. She's American, in Prague alone for a week. Hate him so hard. Throwaway. My son's relationship with his wife has been nothing but chaos for him and our family. They've been married 4 years this year. Son and wife are the conspirators behind why my son was less than honorably discharged from the military a few weeks after graduating basic. I blame them both to some extent, but I think she caused him a lot of heartbreak and encouraged him to attempt to leave the military. Coming from a long line of those who served in the military, it makes me extraordinarily angry when she goes out of her way to thank him for his service in the military. Then during their 3rd year of marriage, while they were trying to get pregnant, she goes bat crap crazy, cheats on my son with her ex-boyfriend, tells my son she's been cheating for a month on Valentine's Day and moves out, gets pregnant by this guy, sells, or he stole, her wedding ring, maxes her credit card, and tanks her credit score. On the day they go to sign their divorce papers, she tells my son she's pregnant, lies to him and says it might be his, and asks that he take her back. He did, to say the least. I'm angry. It's a lot of anger directed at her, some anger directed at him for being such a pathetic pea with her, but also admiration for him for choosing to raise the child with her. There's a lot more going on in their relationship, and their behavior towards the rest of the family makes it very difficult to help or give advice in any meaningful way. Stole my wife's credit card and bought himself shoes and an iPhone. Also took $150 to go party. Charges pending. What made me not tolerate him anymore was stealing $10 from his little brother's wallet. Steal from me all you want. I'm an adult. Stealing from your little brother just shows that you are a dirtbag. Convinced her to sneak out of our house in the middle of night, then cut work, then cut school, then drop out of high school and run away. Eventually she left that so, found a new person and got married in a month. Now mostly she sits around collecting food stamps and smoking weed. My opinion, smoke weed if you want, but if you don't have enough money for food, you shouldn't have enough money for pot. My daughter's life is ruined. Man, that last sentence just sounds heartbreaking. I'm so sorry for you. Oldest son, in his 20s, brought his new GF to meet me, his dad and younger brother. She proceeded to advise my youngest son, 14-year-old, to sign up for sugar daddy sites to talk to men for money. She didn't get invited back to the house and they eventually broke up a few months later. Existed. She was 20. My daughter was 16. My ex thought it would be a good idea for the girlfriend to move in with them, so she was living with her girlfriend. When they broke up, and the GF moved out, she spread lies about why they broke up, screwing with my daughter's reputation. Then she damaged my daughter's car and threatened her friends. Now they are back together, and the GF can't understand why I wouldn't have her over for Thanksgiving. Be a registered sex offender. Years before he met her, he was seeing an underage girl and chaos resulted. I hate that her life is difficult. I think I'm like other parents. I want her life to be bettered by her, so it's not, and that makes me not warm up to him. Repeatedly infected my teenage son with lice. Every time he came home with them, he'd say they broke up. We'd go through the whole delousing process, then they'd be back together the next week. Repeat. I've spent a fortune this year on pesticides, shampoos and combs. I wanted to report her parents to the CDC, but my wife didn't want to make waves. This is the fault of her parents, not her. Trust me, I had lice when I was a kid, 7-8ish, and used to beg my grandma to take care of it. She just didn't give a dang. Thanksgiving Day. Daughter brings new boyfriend over and they are dozing off at the table, clearly high. I offer to take them home saying if you're so tired maybe you should go home. The new BF gets angry and swearing at me. I had to shove him out the door and as he tries to get back and I kick him in the chest. Then cops come and take him away. Frick, I hate that guy. As people have said, investigate into any possible recreational painkiller use. 2 weeks ago a good friend of mine died from an OD. Crap got real fast. They got together when he was 15. She was 19 at the time. Every time they broke up she would sleep with one of his friends. My son is no son, but she brought out the worst in him with drugs and booze all the time. They would fist fight non-stop. When he was 17 he moved out and got a place with her. A very nice place in the suburbs that she pays for with her stripping and drug dealing. She also got pregnant when he was 18. Continued to strip and take pills. Had a miscarriage at 5 months. Well, not exactly. She actually gave birth and the baby lived for a few hours. Then the baby died. I just hate her. And I hate that we all have to pretend we like her or he doesn't come around the family at all. The news so. He got fired from the job where they met and then a few weeks later called her up to brag about smoking the biggest bowl ever. He's 22, lives with his parents, has no job, isn't going to school and smokes pot a lot. You know, I don't care if you smoke pot, but when the girl you're interested in says she isn't interested in smoking it, you shouldn't sit there trying to coax her into it. Respect her wishes and go get a freaking job. He's left a sour taste in my mouth and hasn't tried to change that. My daughter is 18, going to college and has a job. She lives at home because she's technically still in high school. Son-in-law checking in. What I did to make my wife's parents not like me was to marry her. To this day they cringe at the fact that their Southern Belle daughter married a Yankee. We've been together 15 years, have 2 beautiful daughters together, and my in-laws still will not respond to me when I call them mom and dad. Fortunately their hatred for me doesn't extend to my daughters. They are very loving grandparents and I wouldn't trade them for the world. I actually have a lot of fun with it. Whenever I'm around them I do my best to accentuate my New Jersey accent and love going over on game day and cheering on the Eagles. The Thanksgiving Day game last week was so awesome. Sitting with them as their beloved Cowboys got decimated by my Eagles. Throwaway. Starting when my son just turned 15 he would be persuaded to sneak out at night by a girl who was 18. What made me angry was that I caught him sneaking out one night and he alluded to having done things with her and never went into more detail. From that day forward I did not like her, but I wasn't mad at my son because she got him to sneak out, possibly have sex, and at the time I thought he was a boy and his hormones were raging, so told him never sneak out again. However, being biased and not the greatest parent, when he got older he explained that she forced him into having sex with her one of those nights. Then persuaded him that this meant that they were in a relationship and continued on dating for a couple years. Ever since then, I've been upset and do not take things for granted. My son is a great kid and he's pretty open with me now, but as he got older he realized his story was an outlier and his guy friends and especially some girls he dated later down the road made fun of him for his experience. They would say things like, "You're a boy, of course you liked it. She forced you? That's kinky. Well, sounds like your dreams came true. And say you like when an older girl dominates you." All of these remarks made me absolutely livid. However, I learned that when I brushed off my son's situation with his past so as just raging hormones, I was no better than his friends and latest girlfriends mocking him, and have tried my best to make it up to him. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.